Mark and Danielle Whitaker seemed like the perfect couple. Successful, charming, and in love. But behind their flawless exterior, Mark had been quietly documenting Danielle's shocking betrayals for over a year. 51 affairs, dozens of lies. And when he finally reached the breaking point, he didn't just confront her. He broadcast her execution to the world. What drove a seemingly ordinary man to plan such a chilling act of revenge? This is the twisted story of obsession, betrayal, and the ultimate price of silence. In the quiet suburb of Maple Hill, Mark and Danielle Whitaker were the couple everyone admired. Their two-story home sat on a clean, tree-lined street, where neighbors waved at each other and lawns stayed perfectly trimmed. They hosted barbecues in the summer, handed out full-size candy bars at Halloween, and posed for smiling Christmas cards with their golden retriever. People saw them as stable, successful, and in love. Everything a modern couple should be. Mark, a 38-year-old software engineer, was calm and reserved. He worked from home, spent most of his time in his office, and rarely made small talk. Danielle, in contrast, was outgoing and energetic. Her career in real estate had taken off in recent years, and she was constantly on the move, meeting clients, attending networking events, and showing houses across town. Their schedules hardly overlapped, and that's how it started. Late-night calls, unexplained absences, strange messages flashing across Danielle's phone. At first, Mark dismissed the odd behavior as work stress, but the signs became harder to ignore. Danielle had changed. She stopped asking about his day. She laughed more at her phone than at his jokes. She stayed out later, and when he questioned her, she always had an excuse. Some client emergency, some showing that ran long. She never slipped up. She was too smart for that. But Mark was smarter. Or so he believed. He didn't confront her. He didn't argue or accuse. Instead, he began quietly gathering evidence. At first, it was just a hunch. He installed a simple camera in the living room under the guise of home security, then another in the garage. When Danielle didn't notice or didn't care, he went further. Tiny hidden cameras were installed in the bedroom clock, the guest bathroom vent, and the hallway smoke detector. He activated the microphone on her car's dashboard cam. He synced her cloud backups to his private server. He wasn't sure what he expected to find, but what he discovered went far beyond anything he imagined. Within weeks, he caught the first one. A man Danielle brought over while Mark was supposedly on a work trip. Mark watched from his computer as the man casually walked through his home, laughing with Danielle, drinking his wine, using his things. Mark didn't cry. He didn't yell. He just saved the footage, labeled it Number 1, and created a folder titled Truth. That folder began to fill faster than he ever anticipated. Over the next few months, Mark discovered affair after affair. Casual flings, repeat visits, men of all ages and backgrounds. Some came during the day. Some snuck in after dark. Each time, Danielle acted like nothing was wrong. She greeted Mark with a kiss, cooked dinner, posted couple selfies online, all while hiding the fact that their marriage had become a stage play, an illusion she performed with perfect skill. Mark said nothing. He let the lie continue. On the outside, nothing changed, but behind the scenes, he was documenting every moment. Every betrayal was logged, categorized, and stored. The collection became an obsession, and with each new file, his thoughts grew darker. Danielle had no idea she wasn't just being watched. She was being studied, tracked, and silently sentenced. Mark became a man with a mission. Once the first recording confirmed his worst suspicions, something in him shifted. The betrayal didn't break him. It hardened him. What began as quiet suspicion turned into cold, methodical documentation. He no longer looked at Danielle with love or anger. He looked at her the way a scientist might observe a lab rat, detached, analytical, focused. He created spreadsheets tracking dates, times, and the identities of each man she brought into their home. Every new entry became part of a growing archive of evidence, stored across encrypted drives and hidden folders, backed up redundantly in case something ever happened to the originals. He gave each man a number, not a name. Names made them real. Numbers made them data. Number 2. Number 3. Number 17. The entries climbed faster than he expected. Some men only came once, others returned multiple times. One stayed the night in Mark's bed. Another used his razor in the bathroom the next morning. Mark watched it all through hidden lenses, soundless and still, always recording. At first the pain hit hard, but as the numbers added up, the emotion drained away. He didn't cry anymore. He didn't feel much at all. Danielle never suspected a thing. She believed she was in control, managing 2 lives with skill. She kept Mark close enough to keep appearances believable, inviting him to dinners, cuddling on the couch, occasionally even initiating intimacy. But the difference now was that Mark saw through it all. He knew when she was lying. He could almost predict it. If she was unusually affectionate one evening, it was likely because she'd seen someone else earlier that day. Her patterns became predictable, like a puzzle he'd already solved. Mark also began looking into the men. When he could find their identities, he dug deep. Facebook profiles, LinkedIn pages, arrest records. He built files on them too. He wanted to know who they were, what they did, who they were married to, or whether they had children of their own. Some of them were married. Some were teachers, bankers. One was even a pastor. Mark kept copies of every message Danielle exchanged with them, every video, every photo. He didn't just want to catch her cheating. He wanted to build something irrefutable. A total picture. He bought more equipment, better lenses, clearer audio devices, hard drives with more storage. He even installed motion sensors that alerted him anytime someone entered the house when he wasn't around. Mark became obsessed with precision. Everything had to be perfect. He rehearsed scenarios in his mind of what he might eventually do with the evidence. At first, he fantasized about sending the footage to the men's families. Then, he imagined confronting Danielle with it all, making her watch every second. But the more he thought, the darker the ideas became. He no longer wanted just to expose her. He wanted her to understand what she had done, to feel every ounce of the humiliation and betrayal he'd endured in silence. By the time he cataloged the 51st man, Mark was no longer documenting out of curiosity or pain. He was building a case, not for a courtroom, but for something else, something final, something permanent. And in his mind, he'd already decided, when it was time, the world would see it too. It was late March when Danielle disappeared. That morning had been like any other. She left the house wearing a black blazer, high heels, and a bright smile, telling Mark she had a long day of showings ahead. He watched her leave, coffee in one hand, keys in the other, completely unaware that her routine was about to end. By nightfall, her phone had stopped responding. Mark didn't report her missing right away. He waited a full 12 hours before calling the police, his voice calm and concerned as he explained she never came home. He told them she might have been stressed, overworked, maybe even thinking of leaving for a few days on her own. Her car was found the next day, parked neatly at a gas station off the highway. The engine was still warm, the driver's seat adjusted just for her height. The keys were left on the passenger seat alongside her phone untouched. There were no signs of a struggle, no broken windows, no blood, no forced entry. Surveillance footage showed Danielle entering the station, buying a bottle of water, and walking back to her car. That was the last time she was seen. She never drove away. News spread fast. A pretty, successful woman vanishing without a trace was the kind of headline that caught attention. Local stations covered the story within hours. Danielle's smiling face appeared on TV screens and flyers across town. Mark gave interviews, his tone soft and solemn, talking about how much he missed her, how he couldn't sleep, how he just wanted answers. Friends and neighbors rallied behind him, hosting vigils, lighting candles, sharing her photos online with hashtags calling for help. Behind the scenes, the police were puzzled. There was no ransom demand, no enemies, no leads. Danielle's financial records showed no suspicious activity. Her text messages revealed nothing unusual, no warning signs, no threats. They questioned Mark multiple times, but his story never changed. His alibi was airtight, his digital footprint clean. There were no signs of deception, no clear motive. If he was hiding something, he was doing it well. Then, something unexpected happened. A strange link began spreading across dark web forums, encrypted messaging channels, and obscure livestream platforms. No one knew who posted it, but curiosity drew people in. It wasn't labeled. It had no description. Just a timer counting down to 0. By the time it hit 0, over 20,000 people were watching. The stream opened to a dimly lit basement. A single chair sat under a harsh, swinging light. In that chair, tied and silent, was Danielle. Her face was swollen, her makeup smeared, her eyes wide with terror. There was no background music, no narrator. Only the flicker of the light and the sound of someone breathing behind the camera. A distorted voice began to speak, listing dates, times, and names. For every name read aloud, a video played. Grainy footage from hidden cameras, showing Danielle with each of the 51 men. Viewers couldn't believe what they were watching. Some thought it was staged. Others realized too late that it was real. The footage continued for hours, each clip more invasive, more personal. Then the stream went dark for 30 seconds. When it returned, Danielle was crying. A man in a mask stepped into view. There was a flash of movement. A single gunshot echoed. The screen went black. The stream ended. The fallout from the live stream was immediate and chaotic. Within minutes, screenshots of the video flooded social media. Clips were copied, reposted, and mirrored onto countless platforms before moderators could take them down. By the time law enforcement became involved, millions had already seen it. Some believed it was a twisted performance or an elaborate deepfake. But those who had known Danielle, her colleagues, her family, her friends, recognized her instantly. They knew it was real. The FBI opened an urgent investigation, working alongside cybercrime units to trace the origin of the broadcast. The stream had been routed through multiple layers of encryption, bouncing through foreign servers to mask its true source. Still, digital footprints always leave a trace, and slowly, piece by piece, agents began to follow the trail. It wasn't just the broadcast they examined. They searched for anything Danielle had done online in the hours and days before her disappearance. They looked for any clues, emails, calls, messages, that might hint at who had done this. Suspicion began to quietly circle back to Mark, but on the surface, nothing stuck. He continued playing the role of the grieving husband, appearing devastated on camera, participating in search efforts, and cooperating with authorities. Yet behind closed doors, investigators found his behavior too calm, too measured. He never broke down, never showed anger, never slipped. It was as if he'd already made peace with her fate. What finally turned the investigation upside down wasn't a technical breakthrough. It was a mistake Mark made weeks before the stream. One of the hidden cameras he used to record Danielle had automatically uploaded a backup of a test clip to a forgotten cloud account. That file contained not only footage of Danielle with another man, but also a brief frame showing Mark's reflection in the mirror, clearly holding a remote adjusting the camera. The FBI traced the IP address that accessed the cloud account and linked it to a location, a remote cabin in northern Minnesota, rented under a fake name just weeks before Danielle vanished. Agents moved in quickly. The cabin was empty, but inside they found what they needed. A chair bolted to the floor, ropes on the ground, a camera stand, and Danielle's earrings left on a nearby table. On the walls were scribbled dates and timelines. More telling were the hard drives stacked in a locked case beneath the floorboards. They contained the full archive, the same footage shown during the live stream, along with several files that had never aired. Mark was arrested less than 24 hours later at a roadside motel just across the state line. He had dyed his hair, grown a beard, and was using a stolen identity. In his backpack were burner phones, cash, a flash drive, and a list of names, many of them matching the men from the videos. When confronted, Mark said nothing. He didn't ask for a lawyer. He didn't deny anything. He simply looked at the officers and smiled. By the time the news reached the public, the story had already become legend. The man who had lived in silence for a year, documenting betrayal in its rawest form, had finally acted, and the world had watched every second of his revenge. The trial of Mark Whitaker became one of the most talked about criminal cases in recent American history. It didn't take long for the media to crown it with headlines. The livestream killer, husband of 1,000 eyes, digital revenge, news vans parked outside the courthouse for weeks, and online communities debated whether Mark was a monster or a man pushed too far. The courtroom itself became a stage, with every seat filled and cameras barred only by the judge's strict orders. People wanted to see the face of the man who had calmly orchestrated one of the most chilling acts of calculated vengeance ever caught on camera. Prosecutors came armed with a mountain of evidence: the hard drives, the cloud backups, the cloud storage logs, the rental cabin, the equipment, the recorded live stream. All of it created a case so airtight that there was no room for doubt. They painted a picture of a man who spent a full year collecting humiliating, intimate proof of his wife's betrayal and turned it into an execution plan. They didn't argue his intelligence, they argued his coldness, his ability to wait, plot, record, and destroy without showing emotion. They showed the list he kept of all 51 men. They showed the spreadsheet, the timestamps, and the folders meticulously labeled. But the defense had a different strategy. They leaned into Mark's emotional deterioration. They argued that he was not born evil but was broken down over time, psychologically crushed by a web of lies and manipulation. Expert witnesses spoke about emotional trauma, about psychological collapse, about the dangerous effects of prolonged betrayal. They never claimed he was innocent, but they wanted the jury to understand why he had done it. They argued it was an unjust murder. It was the desperate act of a man who had lost everything. The jury sat in tense silence during the playback of the live stream. Only a portion was allowed in court, but even that was enough to bring visible discomfort. Some jurors looked away. One had to be excused after becoming visibly distressed. The footage didn't just document Danielle S. affairs, it exposed the precision of Mark S. planning. The sequence of betrayal, punishment, and execution had all been carefully edited to tell a story. And it worked. After 3 weeks of testimony and only 6 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a unanimous verdict. Guilty on all counts, including first-degree murder, unlawful surveillance, kidnapping, and broadcasting of a criminal act. The judge sentenced Mark to life in prison without the possibility of parole. There were no tears, no last statements. Mark showed no reaction as the sentence was read. He simply stood, nodded once, and was led away. In the aftermath, debate over the case continued. Some saw Mark as a calculating sociopath. Others called him a victim who snapped. The footage remained banned from legal release, but clips still surfaced in underground forums, fueling a strange mix of horror, curiosity, and even admiration from the darker corners of the internet. Danielle's funeral was held quietly, attended only by close family. The 51 men she had been involved with mostly vanished from public view. Some lost their jobs. Others moved away. A few gave statements expressing regret, but none faced charges. In the end, what shocked people most wasn't just the murder. It was how long Mark had lived in silence, smiling, waiting, planning. While the world saw a loyal husband, he was already writing the final chapter. And he made sure the world would never forget it.